Hello. Allison, like you? So, did you work? Well, that's really starting to suck. Get out. I do not need noise from the outside world. Oh, that's going to be fun to clean up. So I got it done. Damn it. Come on. Hold together. Hello, Effie. Okay, well, now that Effie's here, Marcus is done. So I guess I'll just start reading it. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the story because we already went through the rest of it. Can I put it together before I show it to your husband? I need to get it together, and right now I'm trying to hold it. All right. Anyways, so let's just go straight to the story. Marcus slash Anna is a member of the Kroll, one of the two Kree scroll hybrid races found on the Fey realm of Tira Long. And I'll write the explanation later. Considered a special birth and was always believed to have grand future ahead of them, he was the second born of twins, which in itself is unusual for Kroll. Had the other person who had gave birth that day had a single birth, so there was no mated person for Marcus. Besides this unusual circumstance, he was also born with the mark of Elan, which hadn't been seen in centuries, and had never been seen on someone who was born without a mate. His young life was filled with stress and sadness. Without a born mate, he had no built-in friend, and because of the mark, many other children were scared of him. He also received pressure from his parents to study hard and learn as much magic as he could. He often found friends in the Scree children who lived near them, but other than that, he only really had his sibling and her mate, his parents, who loved him even though they pressured him, and a strange woman who would come and visit him once a week. As he grew, he gained popularity with both Kroll and Scree. His magic rivaled some of the adults, and his charm was noticeable. Some of the Kroll called him the Touched, meaning he was far more powerful than others of their race. But but also that he had a phase charm. Thing was, they were right, and he knew he had the mark. Though many people wanted to be his friends due to his young mastery of different magics, he had been shown of different magics he had been shown, but he stuck close to his sister, her mate, and the street kids he had made friends with. Unfortunately, one of those, a female named Brie Bren, or Beebe, had become obsessed with the idea of her and Marcus marrying. Other than Beebe, Marcus had no interest in women or men, just his studies. In his late teens, he learned the last of the magics that anyone in the area, and his schooling for general knowledge completed. He was told it was time for new teachers to teach him more magic, and other knowledge. He began to prepare for whatever journey would be and was confronted by Bibi, who told her plan for them to marry. And Marcus didn't know how to let her down. He convinced her that they were too young to marry, and they would try when he returned from his journey. The thing was, he didn't know what his journey would entail yet, and he just wanted to avoid angering the Scree girl because she'd been a good friend and she was also a powerful healer. Obsessive as she wasn't someone who wanted hating you. Marcus set off on his journey, but first heading to the woods to the north. This thing does not want to glue. Let's try the cement. Okay. Maybe that'll hold. Anyways, where was I? It was said one of the two great towers of the Fey gods who had ruled the world lived, and that it was where the elders had told him he should go, and it seemed like the right place to start. Though most Fey creatures were often aggressive, and most weren't often aggressive, and most would just walk away. Though both Scree and Kroll did eat meat, they only ate meat from animals that they raised themselves, and didn't hunt due to the rules of this world. But there were still very small smart predators who would hunt and eat a Kroll, and even some would fight for the joy of fighting and hunt a Scree or Kroll for the challenge. Along the trip, he found an injured Uro dog, teleporter dog, and used what he knew of healing magics to save it and heal it. The Uro decided to join him on his journey and protect him as thanks for fixing it. It was a good thing, too. Uros were perhaps the most dangerous and vicious predators of all the Fey realms, and most other predators would avoid them. Though Uros were usually friendly to the more intelligent Fey species and humanoids, it would hunt and kill even the largest Fey predators. Within a week, they made it to the tower, and the Uro wanted. And though the Uro wanted to enter the tower with him, he knew that it couldn't, and decided to return to the force and leave him to it. Once in the tower, a voice told him that he had made it this far and had passed the first test. Now he had to pass the other 9. The voice told him there were 16 floors to the tower, In every two floors was a single section of it said it should be 18 floors to the tower. And every two floors was a single section, and a, each section would only be open to the next when he solved the puzzle and answered the test. He found traversing the tower was far easier than he thought it would be, with the understanding of both magic and science being above average. Each chest was complicated and in the form of a riddle, but for Marcus it was easy for him to solve them, moving up through the building quickly. And the last two floors were the hardest ones since they were from the most recent lessons, but he finished them quickly and made it to the top of the tower. There he found something that surprised him more than anything in the tower had. Before him stood the two beings he had never thought he'd meet in his entire life. The two beings thought of as the gods by his people, Elona and Eleanor. The two Fey gods were the ones who ruled over this realm and had long ago forced the combination of the predecessor species known as Skrull and Kree into the Skree and Krull. The Skree and encouraged the same races to work together and eventually led to the interbreeding that led to the Krull. He forgot himself in the shock of the meeting the two gods that he almost didn't fall to his knees before them. As he went down, Alana, a kind female fae who had encouraged his people's creation, assured him he wasn't required to bow before them, while Eleanor, the god who had often been thought of as cruel by the Skree, but had also helped them create their civilization, smiled slightly, but also voiced that it was nice but not required. Once they had convinced Marcus to stand again, they began to explain the point of the towers and the tests for each person who had come here. They also told him usually only one of them was present, the other in one tower or the other, during the test, but sometimes they would greet special cases and give them a gift from each of them. They explained that the whole point of the tests were to make a great mage that could teach the next generation how to use the magics. Though this was not what he wanted, they were close to convincing him that this was his destiny when another voice stopped them. Marcus was surprised as the old woman who had visited him throughout his life joined them, saying that they had marked him for that purpose, but she had changed the mark, pulling up his shirt, exposing the mark because she saw another person's for him. To Marcus's surprise, the two gods bowed before the woman, telling her that they hadn't realized she had chosen him for another purpose, and they were more than ready to hand him over to her for whatever she wanted him for. The old woman hissed at them, telling them that they had yet to learn that they were not of those under their charge, and that she had planned this not for her to choose, but an option for Marcus. As the others stood, she shifted to a beautiful elven-looking woman who was far younger than he had seen her as. She was the Fey Queen Titania, and she had hoped he would be as powerful as he had become. Okay, short break while I do this. Oh, good, the cement worked. Okay. Okay. Effie, now would be a good time to show your husband. I will go back to reading the story here in a second. Sorry about that, Allison. I didn't realize how badly written that actually was. Okay. I think it's all together. God, I wish the front tire was a little bit better on. Let's see if I got the wiring right, because if I didn't, I'm going to have to rip it apart. Ah, all right. We have headlights. And we have taillights. Okay. Where are my figures? Huh. Wonder where he went. Changing his hands and stuff a little bit ago. I don't think he fell down. Well, anyways, Titania began to explain what she thought he was meant for, moving beyond Tiralon and going to a place that was the center of all planes, the place called Earth. After out his two choices, Marcus decided he was going to Earth. Going to Earth was more interesting, and he always wanted to learn more magic, so he chose that path. This disappointed Alana and Eleanor a little, but they agreed and hoped that he would find what he was searching for with his heart on Earth. They had presented him with magical gifts that they had for him. Ilana gave him her sword, which could be used as a weapon, but also as a magical field that would shield him from physical attacks, and most magical as magic as well. And as well as be used as a magical focus. LNR gave him a drum that could open doors between where he was and any place he had ever been, and he could be used as a magical focus as well. The last gift was a strange hourglass that Titania gave him that could be used as a magical focus and a power battery to add to his already substantial magic ability, as well as something that would become apparent when he learned enough to activate it. They told him he should return to his village, gather his things, and tell his family and friends that he was leaving for Earth, and when he was to head south to the Great Round Lake, where Titania would meet him and show him the way to Earth, the realm. After that, he was on his own. I'm wondering where he went. Oh well. Marcus did what he was told and found that he was not only excited to go on a new adventure, but suddenly felt like he had dodged a bullet when it came to Bibi. He liked her, but he couldn't see being married to her. With him being on Earth or wherever this adventure took him, he wouldn't be able to marry her. And he did as he was told, and 2 days later, he met her on the edge of the great circular lake. Titania took him to one of the 4 islands in the center of the lake, where she introduced him to his first new teacher, Ted Cord, also known as the Man-Thing. Titania told him that if he ever came back to this realm, he would have to use the Nexus of all worlds. Otherwise, he would have to travel through the other Fey realms to get back. If he didn't come back through that way. She then said her goodbyes and went on her way. The Man-Thing then motioned for him to follow and began to teach him to navigate the Nexus of all worlds, showing him how to get to the world you want to go to without ending up on Krelar or some other planet or realm. Then when they made it to Earth, Man-Thing motioned his goodbyes and pointed Marcus to the right direction to get out of the swamp. Those are the, if you don't know, which I'm sure Tempe doesn't know this. I'm not sure if Allison knows this. Man Thing is the defender of the Nexus of All Worlds, which is located in the swamps of New Orleans. So, of course, since he knows where he is the protector of the Nexus, he most likely would know how to use it. That's where that idea came from. Yeah. There he is. Okay. Now going back and forth. Yeah, I know there was some shit that's going to need to be corrected. One of the main reasons to have me read through it is so that you can know what I actually meant to say. Okay. Marcus found his way out of the swamp and ended up in a place called New Orleans. While trying to figure out how this world worked with its strange trade practices and adjust to the uncaring attitudes of the people here, he thought he had found a way to make what they called money. Though he had found a way to make what they called money, he was unable to get food. He still hadn't figured out how to get a place to stay. That was when he met his second new teacher, Jericho Drum, aka Brother Voodoo. It was quite by accident that they met, and it was because of a group of cultists that they found each other. The cultists had been preying on the homeless, thinking no one would notice that a few had disappeared, and they didn't realize that both Marcus and Drum were watching and that they would never let them continue their depraved ways. They attacked the cult the same night and met while fighting them. This led first to a friendship and then to Marcus training in the ways of voodoo. While training under Drum, he was introduced to other magic users, including Dr. Stephen Strange, who at the time was still Sorcerer Supreme of this realm. There we go. This is the way it's supposed to be set up. That's actually kind of scary too. What do you girls think? Maybe I should turn the lights on. No, no, I was talking about the bike, Effie. Man, sometimes. No, want you and your husband's opinion of what the trike how you think the trike looks with its current setup. Well, front tire really did not get on there right. Don't want to waste the battery. It's hard enough to get that box in and out as it is. Tell him that that's not the first thing I've built with working lights. If you guys check through my background, I think I got a couple of them. Might only have one. It might only be the tower. But yeah, made from garbage. Trash builds, always the best ones. Okay, now let's get that out of the way. We'll get this back up, and now you'll have to look at me for the rest of the time. Sorry you have to look at my ugly face, but hey, whatever. It was due in no small part due to Marcus's presence. Please add that, Allison. In no small part that Doctor Strange opened the first Strange Academy to allow other young magic users to learn different forms of magic, much like Marcus was trying to learn magic beyond his native Fey magics. It was thanks to this that Marcus was able to avoid his exposing his secret sex changing condition by the world at large. He was the first student of the academy and generally kept hidden from the other students and the world at large. To everyone's surprise, it was found that Marcus and his alternate form, Anna, were like a blank slate when it came to learning new magics. Their earlier teachings did not get in the way of learning how to do something that they had learned in a different form of magic. He was capable of learning how to cast a spell in multiple forms of magic and then figure out which was easier for him to use. Even how to combine two or more magics to cast one spell with a greater power. He graduated from the academy in 2 years, having learned all he could be taught by the teachers who were partly made up of resurrected mages who had died before the academy had been opened, including the ancient Agatha Harkness and several others. This version of the academy predates the current one. I don't know what changed it to correct. It said current originally. The original one by some years and was disbanded after the rest of Marcus's class graduated and was later re-established when magic re-entered the world after it had left due to the destruction of the Book of the Vishanti, and then when the Book of Vishanti was put back together, and the destruction of the Darkhold. Of course, that's how they put the Book of the Vishanti back together, was by destroying the Darkhold. Once he graduated, he still felt he had so much more to learn about this world and other types of magic that weren't taught at the academy. With the help of the school, he gained citizenship for the United States and a passport that could hide his identity if he needed, which he did, since on Earth his sex change happened every 6 months instead of a year. For the next few years, he traveled the world, being careful not to be in a country that had restrictions on women while he was one. It wasn't easy, but he was able to do it. Well, welcome to the group. Any subscriptions, welcome. Anything else, welcome as well. Pass it on to your friends and family. He found teachers who used ki to change their bodies and harden them in the physical combat, and some magic-like abilities. He found strange creatures and old shaman who used magics that pulled from nature or added to it. He found demons that had no interest in hurting anyone, who taught him strange magics from the dark planes, and other fae who taught him how to use his powers more effectively on Earth. For a few years, he tasted true freedom for the first time, and he truly loved it, but that all ended when the superhero Civil War happened. He returned to the United States in order to sign up as a superhuman, even though some of his teachers told him he shouldn't. But it only seemed right to him. When he registered to be a hero, he was shipped off to one of the initiative camps where his life would be changed forever. Here he met Abby and Alice, and from the first time he saw Abby, he knew what his sister had felt whenever she looked at her mate. He wanted nothing more than to be with this woman. Not knowing how to approach her, he froze. Luckily for him, she also felt attracted to him, the attraction to him, and approached him instead. This led to the start of their friendship and later relationship. They were put on the same team and served as heroes until the Hero Registration Act was repealed, and they were once again free to go where they wanted. Marcus chose to go with Abby and Alice back to New York and stay with them for the time being. He would still go on his searches for new teachers and learn new magics, but he would also return quickly to be with Abby. This led to them truly becoming a couple, and in his ways, a mated pair. He learned to play several instruments from Abby, including, and most importantly, the bass, because in the mutant band, that's what he plays. He learned about mutant powers and how they worked. He taught Abby about his realm and the traditions of his people. The only threat to them being together was his duties to the world of magic, and chose not to take part in the Sorcerer Supreme competition when Doctor Strange stepped down to dark magic corruption. Though this was a disappointment from his former teachers, they didn't try to force him because it was his choice, though they knew he was probably the most powerful mage alive. He would spend 3 months with Abby and Alice, then six traveling to find teachers, and he did this until he felt he had learned all this world had to offer. That's when he realized that he no longer wished to return home with the knowledge that he had and was soon visited by Titania, who asked him if had decided what he wanted to do. She didn't seem surprised when he told her he planned to stay in the Earth realm, even if it was, even if the original that wasn't that was their original plan, and told him that he had earned the right to choose for himself. Also told him that he would find his way back to Elan, but not to stay. She knew he would pass his teachings on to the new teacher when he did, but he was now free from the need to return. He did return to Elan a few months later, but he had returned with Abby and Alice in tow only because Abby had contracted Mpox and he was trying to save her. With the help of the Scree healers, he was able to keep her alive long enough for Alice to find a cure to the disease, and they stayed for a time after to allow Abby to heal. BB was not happy when she found out that Abby and Marcus were a mated pair, but seemed to accept it even though she offered to be his second wife, a practice the Kroll didn't follow, but the Scree often did. But he refused and told her it was better if she found another mate, for they didn't belong to each other. BB didn't take it well, but she seemed to move on. While still on Elan, he passed on many teachings to the new teacher who had been born on the day he left, and left him books to learn more from as he came of age. He also taught many new magics to the people meant to be his students, and many of the other people, both Kroll and Scree alike. They had sent a message to the mutant scientists through Dreamtime on how to create a cure for Mpox, and then waited until he had fully passed on the magical knowledge that he had, then returned to Earth. The world they returned to was changed. They were now, and they now mostly did their best to keep to themselves and not get involved with world events. Abby told him when they heard the call to go to Krakoa, but had chosen to stay in New York. Alice because she would be of more help to the mutants at Stark Tech than she could on their island. And Abby stayed because only mutants were welcome, and she wasn't leaving Marcus or Alice, but mainly because she didn't want to be away from Marcus. During this time, hate of mutants began to skyrocket, and this led to the hate of other non-humans as well, which made little sense to Marcus, who knew that mutants, augments, and inhumans were just different variations of humans. He could understand hate of others not of your species, but not people that were more or less the same as you. Marcus noticed this, and after the end of Krakoa, he noticed refugees who had once lived in the same places that took them in were now receiving much worse treatment, and it was becoming far worse, and he began to fear for his mate. For the most part, Abby was able to hide who and what she was, and that made it easier, but Marcus had trouble with the state of the world and hoped to find a way to fix the problems. He swore he would find a way to heal these people, and he would use his magics to help the world end this mess. Okay, that's it for that one. That's three more to go after this. And I have come up with a name for. I think I've said this before, but our alien cyborg, who is more or less a multicellular amoeba, will be Snot. But before I start work on him, I will finish. I will do the work on the second half of Magian. I will work on Anna and set her up. I'll take a short break from doing the other little bits that we could do. But other than that, I think that we could call it a night. I really do like the way this turned out. That the Trike turned out. And maybe I'll do another big trash build project at some point. More than likely, though, I will choose to do a video instead. That way it won't be as boring as it can get when I'm doing this kind of work. So, Allison, I'll give you a call in a bit. And I will see you guys Thursday.